Hello and good afternoon, good evening, in some places, good morning. Welcome to Primetime Gaming. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and we have an outstanding, rocking 90 minutes for you. This show is going to be a little bit shorter, as a lot of the shows have been in recent weeks, simply because there isn't a lot going on. We do have some breaking rumored news, and we're going to, on the back end of tonight's program, we're going to do something fun. I have a list that was provided by Clobriel. He put it out a couple of days ago of franchises that no longer have current gen games. And I thought it would be pretty cool to kind of, sit back with the guys, sit back with the chat and talk about what three of this list do we want to see back, unless maybe there's something there that's not on the list that you want to see come back in a big way. Because look, Microsoft and specifically Xbox, well, they're hitting on all cylinders right now. They have a lot going on, even well before the showcase. The showcase has just been basically the cherry on top of the sundae. You still have Gamescom. You still got Tokyo Game Show. You still got the Game Awards. And they're not slowing down, folks. They seem to have really settled into this fast-paced, in-your-face type of Xbox that we've all been asking them to do, and it looks like they're delivering. And this, and again, depending on who you talk to, gentlemen, 2023 was a phenomenal year for Xbox, especially with first party, especially with Game Pass. And 2024 continues that trend. But hey, Kay Asante, welcome, brother. How you feeling?
Good evening. I'm doing okay. Had some things done, graybeards, as you would imagine. So I'm about 75% right now, but I'm still doing here. I'm good. It's a Wednesday, so I'm here with the brothers, and I appreciate it. It should be an interesting conversation. I'm digging through the crates right now for some interesting answers as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, listen, look, at the end of the day, the news for the summer usually does start to slow down. Obviously, you do multiple shows. You do a show on Monday with John Wolf, the Gamers Playground. You also do the Gaming Circle podcast with Everborn Saga on Saturdays. And the news. Listen, there's been more news than we're used to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
you sometimes you got to dig a little bit, like you were just saying. So
Absolutely. No, it's going to be a fun show, man. I appreciate being here as usual.
well, we definitely appreciate you being here as well, especially when you're still not feeling not at 100%. But we definitely appreciate it. And Harky Chani, what's up, brother? How's everything? How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Be an interesting topic. Try to figure out some of the. They have a lot of games, right? So especially if you look at ABK, there's a lot of stuff there. So see what
There
I got some interesting ones.
it's funny. Like, I know, like, the running joke for years has been Xbox has no games, and we are at a point now, especially when you consider Xbox Game Pass. Xbox has too many games. Like, there are literally too many games, not enough hands, not enough time in a day. It's it's a great problem to have. I'm going to be honest with you, great problem to have. But listen, let's get into, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome into nearly 200 people already here. Well, we have breaking rumored news. Now, if you are a someone that likes to listen to other podcasts, even if they are outside of the Americas, one said podcast is one run by Ecstasies. Now, Ecstasies, if you don't know who he is a podcaster / content creator and one heck of an amazing community member from Spain. And he had put out a tweet earlier yesterday where he was like, I got some news that I'm going to share. Well, the news that he shared was the fact that Activision games apparently are going to start dropping into Xbox Game Pass starting in August. Now, it's wild that particular month broke, because Kay Asante and I were literally discussing it this morning, and I had no idea he was going to drop this. And I said, yeah, this is one of the topics that I want to talk about. If you see the original thumbnail, it's of course with Sarah Bond, and it asked the question, when are the ABK games dropping into Game Pass? And boom, this story drops, and it says, according to Ecstasies, which by the way has phenomenal connections, as well as an excellent, and I mean excellent, track record for getting it right. Well, he goes on to say it's going to be Crash Bandicoot, which is going to be one of the first ones. I believe it's the trilogy that he is talking about, arriving into Xbox Game Pass this August. Now, Kay Asante, I'm going to go to you first because, again, we had this conversation this morning. A lot of gamers want these games. Now, the difference, and I think the reason why it seems like it's taking a long time, because I see it, I read the rhetoric. Oh, they've had it since the middle of last year. What is happening? Why aren't the games here? Well, the stark difference for what Xbox is going to do versus what Nintendo and PlayStation currently do is PlayStation says, hey, peasants, we're going to give you games and we're not doing anything to them. Be happy you got them. Nintendo, peasants, buy our games again. Here's a bunch of old games. We ain't doing shit to them. But the difference, and again, I'm one of the peasants because I take them. You give me Resistance Fall of Man or MotorStorm. I'm playing that game, those PS3 games on my PS5. No questions asked. I'll be a peasant. Same thing for Nintendo. A couple of weeks ago, what I was doing with my nephew Tyler, we were playing Wave Race 64. Like for real, but yeah, it's a great game. It's just old, so
yes,
it's fun.
It is.
But the difference here, Kay Asante, is we know that when games become backwards compatible and available to play on your current consoles, they do some things to these games. They give it an upres. They give it HDR. Some of these games never had it, and they get it. That's why I think a lot of these games are taking their time to get here. For me, I want to see a Singularity running at 120 frames or 60 frames per second. I want to see what Prototype looks like with HDR. And if I have to wait a little while to get these, then so be it. What are your thoughts on the rumor coming from Ecstasies that we're going to start seeing them put games starting in August?
I don't see that as a problem. I actually think that's a pretty logical thing. As we were discussing this morning, I don't foresee it being a technical limitation, right? They've had it for a little while. It does take some time to port games to the store. Like I think we've discussed this before in the past, where the difference between the Bethesda, the way that Bethesda was handled versus how they're handling ABK, they even came out in an interview officially and said that they have regrets in how they handled the Bethesda situation, in that they allowed those games to kind of overshadow each other by dropping all of them at once like they did, right? So moving forward, it wouldn't be that modus operandi. That's not how they would approach it. So it was rumor and speculation from me that even if they have them all ported or a majority of them ported, it would not be advantageous for them to just kind of drop them all at once. So I suspect it will be more of a strategic gap filling these days after these games become available, right? Because it is. I suspect it's Matt Booty that provides the puzzle pieces, if you will. When does this come out? When does that? He's providing those dates and release times and all of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if starting August, you start seeing these small strategic leaps, right? So as was said right now, you release with the trilogy, the Insane trilogy, and then shortly after, maybe Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 or something else in that vein. What I don't foresee is you get like 15 to 20 drops, which they could do, but I don't foresee that.
Yeah,
right?
I think that might
basically
be
because
of
what they said. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Basically, because of what they said, I don't foresee them dropping a bunch of them at the same time, because because look, development takes time. Development has a long tail, and sometimes, and we've seen it in recent past, a bunch of folks sit there and go, hey, Microsoft, what are you planning to release for us now, right? There's a little drought and a little gap in the process, a gap between this game and that game. That is when you strategically put out that last awesome game that you wanted to play, or that last awesome game that you were waiting for them to release, right? We've seen rumored photos of Hasbro's Cybertron games also being dropped in the mix, right? I foresee them all coming in strategic order, right? They won't drop them all on you because then they step on each other. These will be doled out. I hope August is the floodgates, right? But it won't be floodgates as in all of them. It'll be like dribs and drabs, as in this week you get this, next week you get something else to fill in the gaps potentially for maybe they don't have like. And when I say that, it's very interesting because it's not that they don't have anything for you, because they always have a new Game Pass title for you. But this will be a first party way in addition to the various Game Pass offerings that they have to offer for you. So I do think it's quite strategic and interesting how they are doling it out right now. And I think ultimately with the amount of franchises they do have under their belt, you're going to see them continue this cadence for quite some time.
So before I bring in Hargeet to get his hot take on this, because obviously he's been talking about it as well on many podcasts about how the importance of this onslaught of games that are going to be available, and again, this is why the Back Compat team apparently is coming back. We know that there's a new team that's been formed for both backwards and forwards compatibility that's coming the way of Sarah Bond, which is a big thing. I got some more context. So I pulled a story that came out afterwards. Now, it was written by Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming. Now, Tom, of course, gave credit where credit was due, where the original story came from Ecstasies, the same way that I did on my Twitter when I posted it, because he should get the credit. And shout out to Tom for, of course, linking it in the story. There's some more information here because apparently Jez Corden of Windows Central has corroborated this rumor that came the way of course, Ecstasies. And it came from the Xputer forums, which is what he runs. Now, according to Ecstasies 1, Tony Hawk 1 and 2 Remake, Spyro Reignited Trilogy, as well as the trilogy for Crash, the remake of Crash Trilogy, are the first ones to be dropping this August, which I think are going to be all great titles. So, if that's you mentioned about the drip feed, well, check this out, because it says in Corden's report, he outlines that he understands Microsoft's strategy isn't to release all of Activision's back catalog at once, but to rather, que Asante, drip feed them into the platform. Bravo, kind sir. Bravo.
And it's not to prognosticate, not anything ridiculous, but it makes sense, right? How many times have they been criticized for having gaps in the repertoire, having gaps in the offerings, right? Yes, Game Pass has been great, and Game Pass continues to be great, but there may be a few months here and there where the offerings come up lacking. And when I say that, I'm being tongue in cheek, because whether it's an indie game or a AAA game, people love a lot of the games being offered there. But every once in a while, you'll get one where it's this indie game, that indie game, and you might look at it and go, it's okay. And then they add in, something excellent from the ABK catalog, and that elevates it from a 4 out of 10 to maybe a 7 or an 8 out of 10. And they'll continue to do that because now they have these strategic puzzle pieces that they can keep getting attention to, right? One of the big mistakes that I think they made during Bethesda was dropping all of them like they did, to the point where Prey kind of bubbled to the top. A bunch of people saw it and went, hey man, Prey is actually pretty damn good, and it's been there for years, and most people didn't know it, right? And unfortunately, because so many other games were in the mix as well, Prey got maybe 2 weeks of shine and people moved on because there were a bunch of other games that were dropped as well. This way, they keep it very strategic, where it fits, they add them in. and that way a lot of those games get the second wind that they need. I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're absolutely right. Plus, you don't want to. I mean, look, most of the games they're going to be dropping in there are going to be old. Let's call a spade, but that doesn't mean that they're not worthy of playing. Plus, when we say old, they're games that people might not have played. I don't know. I mean, raise your hand in the chat if you played through and beat Singularity. If you even know what that game is, that game is freaking absolutely amazing. What a fantastic first-person shooter that dealt with time travel. But most people didn't even bother playing that on the Xbox 360. Now, the next title that I'm very much looking forward to seeing if it's going to get some graphical oomph, if you will, would be Prototype. I didn't care too much for Prototype 2 as much as I loved 1. But 1 was phenomenal. I would love to see some additions through HDR, through FPS boost, things of that nature, to pretty it up. And I hope, and again, if why we're not getting these titles like the minute the deal closed was because they were getting them ready for prime time, I'm okay with waiting because, like I said, you don't want. Yeah, I mean, as fun as it is playing something like a Wave 64, and as fun as like the proposed PS3 backwards compatible, rumor for the PS5. I'm going to, and I'm probably going to be one of those suckers to go out and buy Resistance Fall of Man if it's available, because they're not going to give it to you.
And I don't even know. And you know what? And technically, unlike in the Bethesda time frame where they could just turn the button on, hit the button, and get it done, during the ABK time frame, these games were not in the store. And it takes time to get them into the store. Whereas on the Bethesda side, they've always had the back compat versions available. They've always had them available in the store, both in Windows and in the actual console store. So it was an easy thing to just say, hey, here you go, all of them, right? These, I think we talked about this not too long ago, with the exception of like Modern Warfare, which is the future one with Jon Snow. I will call him Jon Snow forever. With the exception of that title, there were no ABK titles in the Windows Store. And Windows Store, as we know, is tied to the console store. So the porting process has to go on for a lot of games. So it's not like the ABK closes, like the deal closes Monday and now Tuesday you have all the games. Tuesday's when they can begin that process. Right. So it's going to take some time, whether you like it or not. Now, after it's done, then I think the strategy is starting to happen as far as, hey, how will people accept it? When will we choose to dole it out? All that stuff. Hey, Graybeard, Mr. BoomStick, I see you, man. That footage is just mean and vicious right now. You just murking fools, man. This is crazy.
I just posted my last 4 games, and I'm going to say that I had almost 80 kills between the 4 games. I was just wrecking.
Please tell me you're not playing against bots, man, because this is very much Everborn Saga energy.
They're not. We're not pulling an Everborn Saga.
Understood, sir.
No, I actually real live combatants, if you will. I'm like I said, I'm like already the battle pass drop. When the battle pass drop on Tuesday, I think it was, and I'm halfway through it already. Like Operation Anvil is phenomenal. I'm having a blast with it. But listen, great stuff all around. Hargeet China, let's bring in, because look, again, this is a rumor. But what I like that Tom Henderson did in the story that I read verbatim is not only did Ecstasies give his breaking news or breaking news rumor, he also went out and saw that Jez Corden corroborated the fact that this is something that's happening. Now, we all knew it was going to happen eventually. But again, it's one of those things that you can't just dump these games in there, because they need to be special. They need to be something, they have to get all these, the FPS boost. They have to get the HDR, everything that you want to see older games run. Again, is it going to be a new game? No, but it's going to look better than it did on the 360. That's what I'm okay waiting for. Let's get your hot take on the importance, because again, there's a lot of people in this community. Even though we're all excited for Indiana Jones and Avowed and Flight Sim, and there's a lot coming out this year, and there's a lot to get excited about, but there's nothing wrong with going back and playing classic games, especially if they're going to be dumping them into a service that you pay for.
Yeah, I mean, and look, there's also just people who've never played these games, right? There are new players, there are old players who maybe missed them, right? And it's always good to just have it in the catalog. And hey, what was what Prototype or True Crime or whatever else, right? And then there's just the porting process that they have to figure out the whole store thing. Once they figure that out, hopefully they can kind of just keep doing them. But yeah, maybe they do actually, for the console side of it, they figure out what to do to get them into higher FPSs and all that stuff. That's great. I think most of the CODs are BC, right? They're already backwards compatible. There's plenty of Activision games that actually are backwards compatible. There's also the potential for things that were licensed that may not be available anymore that might be coming back. Right? There was something about, I think, like the Transformers games suddenly showing up in the store again.
That and Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. I saw people post about that as well. That kind of suggests that these games are coming back.
So maybe there's some deals going on there, right? I think is it Hasbro? I think as Transformers was reaching out to say, hey, we want to make some deals, and Disney was certainly looking to make some deals, right? So there's potentials for those games like this. Still the Spider-Man games, right? I don't know if they're available or not anymore, but those that Activision made right before, Sony was making them.
Shattered Dimensions was one of them, and there was the Beanox made the first two of those games.
Yeah. So look, there's plenty in their catalog. There's other stuff that is on the PC side that isn't quite on the Xbox side. That's also kind of cool to have if we can get them back. The entire Sierra Online catalog coming in would be kind of nice. They have a lot of games in the King's Quest, the Space Quest, the Police Quest, the Quest for Glories, the Gabriel Knights, the blah blah blah. Right, all those games that were out in the 80s, 90s. That Sierra did, they are now owned by Xbox and theoretically should come into PC Game Pass, right? So be good to have those come in, and if they could somehow make those portable to come over to the console, that'd be fantastic, but that's a different story. But at least for the PC side of it, right, this is one of the things they do get with buying ABK is the PC games, and like that should hopefully be a huge drop that goes in at some point. You could say take one or two of those series and just say, hey, the entire King's Quest series and the entire Quest for Glory series is now in PC Game Pass. I know we kind of focus more on the console side, but the growth is on the PC side, right? We have to kind of look at that, and for them, that's a big deal. Is like to say, hey, these PC games are coming in. I still I'm curious what they do with World of Warcraft, if they do anything with Game Pass and World of Warcraft, because that's a huge property. Would they do something there, right, to try to attract Game Pass customers from that? So yeah, I mean, certainly starting with whatever they start with. I'm surprised that the racing game is a Crash Team Racing. I think that just came out like a year or two ago.
Yes.
I'm surprised that doesn't come in because I think that's kind of a more continuous play game, right? Because it's a competitive racing. It's just a fun little like Mario Kart equivalent, right? And it's a really good vehicle to add, it's not pun intended, to add other IPs, right? That certainly could have a whole bunch of Xbox IPs in it. Just like Mario Kart can have all sorts of different characters in it. It would be cool to start seeing, Xbox do the same. They have a game, they have it. They just have to add the IPs into it. So that'd be an interesting game to bring on. I don't know if they're looking to maybe do like a content update and then bring it into Game Pass, but that would be a cool one to bring in. That's a good kid-friendly game that they should look at doing. Like Mario Kart's huge, right? And this is kind of one of those equivalents. So I'm surprised that isn't one of the first ones they bring over. Maybe it is. Maybe we just haven't heard about it. But certainly bringing in the trilogy is fine. Spyro as well. That's fine. But I would expect to see CTR pretty soon because that makes a lot of sense to have like kid-friendly constant content that people can play. Now, granted, it's not an expensive game, right? Obviously, you can just buy it, but having it as part of the service just makes it that much more compelling, right? That's the whole point, is you just keep getting all these compelling games. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes in. Call of Duty is the big one, right? Yes. When do we start seeing those drop in? I'd hope to get something before the new one comes out. I hope they like go back to 360 gen and start bringing some of those in, but even if they're Xbox One gen, right? Something. Let's start getting those together. I don't know if, like, I think you were saying, Case, they don't have any of them in the Microsoft Store, right? So I think they'd have to work through getting that done somehow, connected up to BattleNet or however the heck they want to do it, because they're going to do PC plus console. They're not going to leave one of the platforms behind, right? So whenever they do this, it's going to be both. So I don't know that that should be too far off. I hope with the content drip sometime before October we do see a couple of Call of Duties. Now the fact that August is being floated out there coincides with Gamescom, right? So I'm hoping that's what happens. That's a big drop. Here we go, announcement. Finally, we're getting the ABK games. It could have also been they were ready to go and they just didn't have the bloody time to show it in June showcase, and they're like, you know what? That'd make a good August Gamescom announce. So we'll just wait. We'll just wait for August and throw them in there. The only downside is you kind of leave the summer a little bit more open. But I mean, to be fair, they're going to have Flintlock and Hinterberg. Was it the other one? Plus,
Dungeons of Hinterberg. Yes.
Yeah,
The
and then
Dungeons of
what's that
Every
Japanese
time they
game?
say
The
that, it's
Capcom.
hilarious.
Kinetsugami.
It's the New
whatever.
York accent.
Right, and it's Kinetsugami, right? That's the Capcom game.
Yes.
And that's so they have those big games coming, right? And then they have other games going into Game Pass. So I guess fine, they have kind of summer maybe, but I would have preferred to have like a Call of Duty drop in. I think that would have been kind of cool to kind of revitalize one of the older ones. But hey, whatever it is, they'll do what they have to do and get those going. I would hope by the end of the year, before we get to the new Call of Duty, that they have some Call of Duties from the
I
old,
wouldn't be
catalog
surprised. I mean,
So-
think about it. It makes sense at some point, Hargeet, to get Modern Warfare 3 in there. Like, I know that that it got a 3 out of 10 from IGN, and everyone tried to poo-poo it and said, no, this has nothing to do with ABK. The game sucks. I didn't think the game sucked. Now, was it the greatest single-player campaign I've ever played? Well, no, it wasn't. But it was enough where I spent a significant amount of time, and I quite enjoyed it myself. It's fine. That would be a big one to get in there.
Now, I don't know what the terms are, but because of the marketing of Modern Warfare 3 being PlayStation, I don't know if it's locked out of Game Pass. I'm not sure. So it could be locked out. It could not be. I don't know, right? So I'm hesitant to think that the last 3 will make it into Game Pass for a few years because of the marketing having to lapse. But the ones before that could definitely come in. And I think Modern Warfare 2 might actually, no, that one's 3 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old. So that one might be kind of too new. But before that, I think we are potentially okay. But that's the thing. So I don't know. I don't know if like Bobby Kotick was going to sign a deal where he can't do what he wants. He didn't care about subscriptions, right? So to him, it's like, if you put that clause in, it's an irrelevancy because he was never going to do it anyway. Right.
Yeah,
so
I was under
totally
the
okay
impression, Hargeet, please correct me if I'm mistaken. I was under the impression that when they signed this 10-year deal, that
they undid that.
Yeah, it undid everything.
Maybe not, because the marketing continued, right? They didn't market Modern Warfare 3. They left that to Sony. So I think it kind of just keeps whatever was in place. And the future is after Modern Warfare 3, we give you 10 years and here's the way that's going to work. But now it's marketed definitely by Xbox.
Yes.
And they control whatever they do with it. Obviously, it's coming to Game Pass. They've already made that abundantly clear, right? So I just don't know what the previous few, which would likely be locked for a few years, what that would be. I don't know that, like, so it could be that Sony didn't have the opportunity to actually do that with these games, to do that lockout of subscription service. Or on the flip side, as Bobby Kotick on the stand said, I would never do it, right? He was never going to do the subscription service thing, right? So that's kind of how that goes. So I don't know which way it went, right? Because Kotick could say, I don't care. Go ahead, put that in. I don't care. I'm not going to do it. And so that it doesn't matter, right? Or he's like, no, I do whatever I want. I will just say what I do. You don't get to tell me, Sony. I'm telling you what's going on, right? Because that's more like Bobby's standard MO, right? But whatever. So I don't know for those ones. I would reserve judgment on whether those could come. Like, just keep your hopes in check. In other words, just on whether those like last few would make it in soon. I'd be very happy to see the 360 ones come in. The Xbox One gens stuff can start coming in, right? So whatever came out this gen, I'm not sure yet. We'll see.
I mean, listen, only time is going to tell. August will be here
Exactly.
before you know it. And I just want to kind of roll this back because you mentioned, I would have went right back to you, Hargeet, because you mentioned Call of Duty. I want to read another excerpt from this article, Keasante. Now, this is, of course, Tom Henderson asking the question in the article. One question for me, he says, and presumably for many people, is when the old Call of Duty games will come into the service. It's something that fans have wanted since the acquisition was finalized, and at the very least would reignite arguably some of the best Call of Duty games ever to release. I do think this is important. I do think that this is a talking piece for both Xbox and the community. And I don't necessarily mean, hey, they're going to use this as rhetoric for console war nonsense. That's not what I mean. I mean, there is a already, and again, I'm speculating. I'm assuming that the talented people that they have working at Xbox already have slides and artwork ready to go when they can honestly say, hey, Call of Duty is an Xbox Game Pass, and here's the list. Now, is it going to be all 24 of them? I think it is. No, it's probably not going to be done like that. But I could see dropping a few per week, especially in the lead up to Black Ops 6. It makes great sense to drop all of the Black Ops, because let's call like it is. Black Ops 1 and 2, probably some of the premier Call of Duty games of all time. And if they can get that in there, and obviously they, even if it's drips and drabs, it's still leading up to the release of Black Ops 6, which has been confirmed for Xbox Game Pass. What are your thoughts on the importance of adding these Call of Duties?
Yeah, that's to me to Keasante. Is me, right?
That's okay, but I'll come back to you if you want to
okay,
follow up.
So Keasante, right? Okay, go.
Yeah, I think it's really critically important, right? As a person, and you guys have heard me say this already on the show many a times, I've always long advocated for them to separate the campaigns from the multiplayers, because the multiplayer, those who are excited for the multiplayers are so excited for the multiplayer that you'll see that it downgrades the number of campaign users, right? And MAUs are what we talk about all day now, right? That they're always looking at the trends of who's playing what. I want them to separate the SKU, kind of like they did with Infinite, where you have one launcher for the multiplayer, one launcher for the campaign, and let those of us who love the campaign just kind of play through all of those piecemeal versus one at a whole cloth, like basically go through the entire story. And then those who love the campaign will just jump in as they will as well. I have come to learn that, yeah, people really love their Call of Duties, man. Hey, it's the most popular game in the world for a reason, right? People love their Call of Duties. And honestly, that is another reason why I think they don't drop them all at the same time, right? They love those campaigns and the multiplayers. People will drink deep of those things. They'll remember the first time they came out, nostalgia and all of that. It is critically important that they put them in the store, and they do it sooner rather than later, because it'll keep the flywheel going. It'll keep people talking, right? Even though, like you're saying, Boom, these are older games, what's old is new again, right? They will still be releasing these things piecemeal, one at a time. You will always see something new, quote unquote, from them, because it'll be something that hasn't been there in that service for a long time, right? Or forever, that's never been in that service. So I genuinely think that it's a very interesting strategic move they're making. And yeah, critically important, because it also, while they're disappointing people, some of the hardcore with, well, our games are going everywhere or whatever, then they're also making good on the promise of putting COD games on Game Pass. So that narrative can be dispelled as well, right? So So for the John Wolf's in the room, I see you there, brother. I think he's in the chat. I saw him a little while ago. He'll be the one, pom grabbing and throwing it in the air every week because the new Call of Duty will be there, and many will be exactly like him. So I do believe that this speaks to Microsoft knowing their audience and playing up to them.
It makes perfect sense. Another phenomenal point. Anything you'd like to add before we move on to the second topic of the show there, Hargi Chani?
Yeah, I mean that's basically it. I don't know if there's too much more to add to it. It's it is an important thing. People will want to play it. And I think it's really cool for people who are coming in to be able to play the campaigns. And I think Kazanta, you're right that they should kind of separate, and they kind of have. If they just take Warzone to another level, they kind of have. But yeah, it is kind of cool to have the campaigns be kind of available separately. But it is what it is. The games are there. I think they should add co-op a little bit more. They kind of did that a couple of times. It'd be nice to have more co-op campaign. But either way, I think it is kind of cool to bring the old games in and let you just pick and choose whatever you want. It also takes away the entry barrier for those players who are casual to switch between the platforms, because you have it all in Game Pass. You don't have to buy those games again, right? Your digital library issue kind of goes away, right? Most of the games you'd want to play, they're already here. So you just pay for your subscription, which includes your online access, right? And you're good to go. And if you do it on a discount, like I pointed out in my video, right? You just get them pretty cheap. You can get some pretty cheap cards for 3 months, 6 months, whatever, for Game Pass. You can get away with basically the same as buying one copy of the game, and the online access. You can get the entire freaking Game Pass for the year. It's very worth it, and you have access to all of it. It'd be really cool when it gets there. I don't know that they're going to, by the way, give it to you all soon. I think they are going to give this to you over time, and maybe to your point, Boom, maybe they do like the Black Ops, because that's what's coming out this year, and they say, hey, we're just going to give you all the Black Ops games over the remainder of the year, and then at the end of the year you have all the Black Ops games. Next year we'll do the Modern Warfares or whatever it is, right? And then we'll go from there, right? And that way it's kind of giving you something over the next few years to kind of look forward to. On the flip side, though, the more they throw in immediately, the more they can attract customers from the other side, right? So if this holiday you want to say, oh, you have all those games from your PS4, but you don't have them on, don't worry, we got you covered. Just buy Game Pass, and you can have all the ones that you had on the PS4 and the PS3 or 360, and you're good to go. They're all here. Just pay for Game Pass, and you've got everything, including the latest game. It's available to you in Game Pass, right? It's a great, compelling way to kind of attract customers from the other side if they want to take advantage of that, right? So it's really up to them to figure out what pattern works best for them. But like, there are both sides to this, right? There's one side of saying everything shouldn't go in immediately, but they have a bunch of games. On the flip side, Call of Duty is so freaking big. It kind of is good to just have it there as this massive marketing thing to say, buy our new console. And on the front of freaking box, it has every Call of Duty is just listed there, right? It would be a fantastic marketing thing to do, right? So I don't know. I would prefer they do that, because it really pushes the other side, which has nothing to give you except Astro. So you have Call of Duty. Let's go.
Yeah, it's look, there's something to be said about stacking the deck in your favor. Now, right now, Xbox, I mean, look, they are leading the conversation. They may not be market leaders today, right? That Sony still holds the crown. For how long, though? Well, I'm not exactly sure, especially with no roadmap, especially with failing hardware in regards to PlayStation VR completely just being tossed away like it was nothing. There is a lot that is happening for Team Green, and not so much for PlayStation. And it's not console warring, it's just is what it is. So I'm going to be honest with you, gentlemen. If I understand, and like I said, Kay brings up a phenomenal point. Dumping everything all at once is suffocates some of the other content. All right. And that is absolutely true. But I think there is something to be said about being able to look at a bingo card that has every Call of Duty on that bingo card. And oh, by the way, a $200 digital only console and all of those games that are stuck on PlayStation 4 for you, PlayStation gamer. You get them over here, and they have all the bells and whistles you want. They got HDR, they have FPS boost, all the bells and whistles. You're winning.
See, but
It's
boom, I would argue that
yeah.
the benefit of those being older titles, it means eventually you'll see that. Whether they
True.
they piecemeal it today all the way up until next year or not, eventually come like Black Friday, you'll see that $199 bundle with a bunch of icons on there, right? Doesn't mean
Yeah.
they dropped it all at once. It may have been dropped for months to get there, but eventually we will get there. And the matter of time doesn't necessarily matter much because they are older titles that you've already seen already anyway. You know what I mean? So I think both can live.
I mean, look, it's not even if anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It's just when. When is that going to be?
Yeah.
And it appears that the onslaught of Activision Blizzard titles are coming the way in August, and whether that's in early August or late August, but it's probably going to be around Gamescom, which makes sense. They're going to be in Europe. Europe is a region where Xbox is tremendously behind. I don't know if it's 5-1. It's probably at least 3-1 in Europe, and they could bring some players over. Again, value proposition is going to be a big principle for conversation, whether people want to actually admit it or not. But before we move on to the next topic, let me shout out Jay Rose in the chat, who drops a very generous $5 super chat. And see, I love to hear this. He says, Steam Deck and PS5 gamer here. Keep up the great work. Been watching the show for 4 years now. Dude, thank you. And shout out to Asante. Brother, that is very kind of you, man. Thank you for checking it out. And like I said, all gamers are here.
Mm-hmm.
Are we Xbox centric for 3 out of the 5 shows? Yes. Do we give Sony a pinch more of smoke? Yes. But that doesn't mean when Xbox makes a mistake, we don't give them the same smoke. It's just that, unfortunately, PlayStation, they're just not hitting, man. They're just not. Astrobot, which, by the way, there's a preview up. I'm not sure who did the preview. It looks really good. Like, man, you know what? I'm here for it. I'm going to buy that for the full $70 when it comes out, and I'm going to enjoy the H out of it. I'm going to definitely try and platinum it because I love platformers and I love Astrobot. Astrobot is a freaking cool ass character. And again, they're striking the well of going back to classic PlayStation. Which I love lore. I love lore. I love PlayStation lore. And I hope that we see some older characters come back. You'd like to see Infamous be one of the characters. You'd like to see maybe someone from Twisted Metal would be really cool. Maybe somebody from Resistance. I'm looking forward to that. But okay, I want to go to you next on this. So I provided a list.
Mm-hmm.
So let me pull up this list. Now, folks, we got to give credit where credit is due. The list was originally generated by the great Clobriel. And he does these things. Not only is he a good graphic artist, but he does these things where he just throws a topic out there. And he's not even a content creator, but he simply put a list of games that currently do not have and have not had games in generations. Like some of these games have not had an actual sequel or an actual game since like the OG Xbox. But I think that if we learned anything, ladies and gentlemen, and panel, an esteemed panel, I should say, when you bring back nostalgic games, it could bring grown men to tears, which we saw with E-Day, right? Like that is still, and I got news for you. Like the more you hear people talk about it, and guys, we were there. That's why I'm getting goosebumps. We were ass in seat in that theater watching this happen, which is still mind numbing. Okay. When you can strike that nostalgic chord and you see what we saw, how the whole crowd just erupted, it was unbelievable, right? Older games that strike the same chord, maybe they're not on the level of Gears. I'm hoping that the excitement that we saw for Gears, they bring it back in a big way for Halo. But let me read you the list. Now, folks, pick your top 3, throw it in there. If you can put the 3 in there, I'll give you the shout out. If there's something that's not on this list that Clobriel left out, because the list is pretty long, but if you have another game in there that you want to see come back in a big way, throw that in there as your top 3. And of course, I'm going to get Hargeet's why he's picking these 3. And of course, Keasante. Here's the list that he put out. Banjo-Kazooie. Now, Banjo Pilot. I don't necessarily know if he meant like the kart racing. Maybe that's what he was referring to, because I don't know what Banjo Pilot is. But Blue Dragon, Conquer, Crimson Skies, Fusion Frenzy, Geometry Wars, Guitar Hero, Hexen, Killer Instinct, Mech Assault, Project Gotham Racing, Prototype, Shadowrun, Spyro, StarCraft, and Viva Pinata. Now, someone had asked this in all caps. What is this? And Clobriel in Clobriel fashion said Broken Dreams. Now he's not lying about the broken dreams, and this is where we're gonna have a little fun here, folks, because at the end of the day, like I said, the news is sparse. So you're here. We have 554 people here watching across 2 different platforms. So welcome to everyone that took the time to show up, to show up here and hang out with us. Kay, I want to go to you first because I kind of know what is going to be your one, but I don't want to name it for you. I won't let you do that. Of the list, and maybe there's something on there that's not on there that you want to make. What would be your top 3 games to return?
So okay, you are going to be wrong, sir, because I'm digging in the crates right now, and I've literally pulled up the entire ABK defunct IPs list, and it goes far beyond what Clobriel originally posted. So let's see how we get into this. Now, since we only have a few titles, so I'm gonna enjoy myself on this one. So let me give you my honorable mentions first. I'll give you 3 honorable mentions, then I'll give you my top 3.
Okay, fair.
Right? And I'll tell you why. The reason why these are my honorable mentions is because one way or another, there's too many of them. They exist already, or they are in too great a fashion currently. So going up against them is folly at this point, you know what I mean? But they exist, so I wish they would bring some of them back. One of those is Soldier of Fortune. I would love to see Soldier of Fortune return. I would love it. Although you can argue that it is a Call of Duty-like at this point. That's why it's on my honorable mentions, right? It would, if you think of a Soldier of Fortune for the modern day, it's kind of Call of Duty, right? It kind of is. But at that time when it came out, it was just so visceral and so rough and so grim, dark, dirty, that I feel like somebody else could put a stamp on it and make it different. It'd be cool. Like, I played that game when I was too young to play that game, so I have really fond memories. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I say Soldier of Fortune should be there, and it's on my list. Another one on my list, which is the same premise, which is it's already out there, Singularity. Such a psychological thriller kind of a thing. The reason why I say it's on my honorable mentions is because it's kind of Stalker. It really has the same Stalker energy, right? So you probably wouldn't want to release it right now against the greatness that is coming up, which is Stalker, right? So maybe you don't do that because they're partners and you don't make them competitors overnight. So maybe that's why that doesn't come out. Now, none of this says you don't release the old versions and clean them up and put them out. I say do that. but maybe new versions in that franchise, possibly not. And the third one on my honorable mentions, and I know Boom will love this one. I'm a guy that watches a lot of procedural cop shows. You wouldn't know that about me. I love me some procedural cop shows. I watch many of them. I think they're amazing. Just the day-to-day of it all. I want Police Quest. I want a modern Police
That
Quest
would be
game.
kind of
That'd
dope,
be
dude.
cool. You know, we've seen that a little bit with the RoboCop game that came out, and he's in the station, and they're talking to various folks that come up and they have problems. Imagine that. We've finally seen games that actually do detective work right as a game mechanic. I would love to see Police Quest. It'd be freaking cool. If any, now obviously for my non-graybeards in the room, if you go and Google Police Quest right now, oh yeah, they're gonna have to remake that thing because it is the equivalent of
it probably runs at a
dots
frame
and
per
sticks.
second.
Yes, it's the equivalent of dots and sticks on the screen at this point. So they could literally just take that idea and go off and do something interesting. But I would love those, right? Because it'd be interesting and weird, and it would show that they're taking risks, right? My 3 actual honorable mentions, and one of them on this list is definitely still in that same category of, you don't go against the king, but screw it, we're going against the king. True crime.
I saw people talking about that. Yeah, King Webb mentioned that. New York and LA. Yeah, man.
To this very day, if you ask me the last time I played true crime, I'll tell you it was about 3 weeks ago.
Holy crap, that's awesome,
Yes.
dude.
Yes. There's a reason why I have handheld devices. There's a reason why I emulate stuff. Some games to me are goated. True crime, specifically True Crime New York, is goated. When Lawrence Fishburne, that's right, Lawrence Fishburne does the voiceover introducing you to that world. There's a Jay-Z track playing in the background. You're driving through the streets of New York. It is epic before its time. Like, man, oh man. And then there's True Crime Streets of LA, which has another amazing star. I forget the name of the gentleman who narrated, but they were shooting their shot way back when, using the equivalent of abacus level hardware at the time, like way old school. And the game holds up to this day. It is amazing. True crime. Now, of course, then you'd be going up against the king that is GTA. So highly unlikely, but still true crime. That's what the heart wants, right? Also, Prototype. Screw Disney and their debilitating license fees. Make your own, right? Superhero game, absolute superhero game, who can morph into things and literally take control of humans.
Your own Venom without it being Venom.
Absolutely. It was such a great game. Yes, part 2 kind of phoned it in. Part 1 was awesome. Awesome. Like, they need to really, and this is all about vision from whichever developer chooses to do it. I say True Crime by way of Crystal Dynamics. That's what I say. Like, right? And that's, everybody's like, oh, well, they don't own them yet. You don't see me, but I'm doing an evil smile right now. But yes, definitely. I would love to see Crystal Dynamics due to Prototype what they are now doing to Perfect Dark, right? Serious looking game, awesome weapons, awesome graphics. Turn it, give us that superhero game. And third, which is also falls into the same category of going for the king, but screw it, here I am. Gun. I don't know if you played Gun.
I 1,000 out of 1,000 that achievement, that game.
Such a great game. Such a great underrated game that Rockstar literally like kicked the shoes out from under with their iteration, and now they're the kings, right?
That's a launch title for the 360, dude. What a great launch title, bro.
Yes. Imagine somebody putting an Unreal Engine 5 Shine together on a Gun series, right?
Wow.
Like, it can't, what do you call it? Rockstar's rendition cannot be the only one that lives. Oh, it's the only gun, the only Western. No, right? They're dealing with they're dealing with horses whose balls shrink in the winter. Fine. You do something else, you know what I'm saying? But it could exist and it could be really awesome. So for me, it's True Crime, Prototype, and Gun.
All phenomenal picks. Hargeet, let's bring you in. Now, obviously, you saw the list. I'd like you to follow the same pattern. Give us your 3 honorables, and give us your 3 top picks you want to see.
Well, I only have the 3 tops, but let's see honorables. I think the honorables, I would just go with the licensed ones. Transformers, the Ultimate Alliance games, and Spider-Man, right? They've made those, and it's a good chance of doing that and continuing with it, right? But so those might be ones that they could continue to make and start doing again, especially if the licensing is kind of being worked out. The ones I want to see. So first, I'll just go with the one that you already mentioned because it was going to be one of mine. Was True Crime, Asante. So like, and you've already kind of gone over why True Crime, right? So we'll leave that aside. The other 2 that I want are King's Quest and Gabriel Knight, and Gabriel Knight's my top one. For those who've never played it, Gabriel Knight is a werewolf story with somebody who hunts those kind of people but doesn't know that he can do that.
Wow.
And that's who that is, right? And so it's a set of 3 or 4 games. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4. And well-written stories. It's all point and click adventure, but they could change that into a more modern game that is like Order 1886, but with that story. So Order 1886 had a pretty good story, but it was very short. This has a lot of content to it, right? So they could reboot it and give you that. They had a lot there, so I think that would be an awesome series to bring back if they want to give it a modern take. King's Quest is King's Quest. For those who don't know what King's Quest is, go look it up. It's like one of the most compelling, like long, very old, stories that kind of was at the beginnings of the point and click adventure world. Sierra Online kind of made that a more normal thing, and I think it's been in like movies everywhere. And so it basically is following a king who's trying to resolve issues, and that's really I'll just leave it at that. But King's Quest is a long running series with God knows like 10, 15, whatever it is, incarnations. So like there's plenty of King's Quests, but it's such a good series. I think it'd be good to take a modern take at it and have something more. They did a reboot, but it was a sort of a whimsical, it was still a good point and click adventure, but it had a different take than say making it more serious, right? And there's been some whimsy in those games, but it's been a serious game. So I think it'd be kind of cool to have that be a more serious take and give it a good chance. No, it doesn't have to be like AAA level crazy, but certainly like a South of Midnight level or a Hellblade 2 level, do something cool with it. But those would be the ones that I would like to see come back. King's Quest. I really think Gabriel Knight has a lot to offer. So if they want to do that, that would be a really cool one to go after. And then True Crime. I think they have the amount of people now to actually do it. They've had the series, like you were going after Asante. And why not have a competitor to GTA? Why does it always have to be just GTA, right? That it's always good to have competition. And I think that actually makes the other game better too, right? Because
so Hargi, question for you.
I think it'd be cool to actually do that.
From the developer pool that we know, who makes True Crime and makes it as deep as you'd expect it to be, right? Because it can't be top level. It'll be compared to GTA forever. So who makes that?
You never know, right? Who thought that Horizon would come from the Killzone people?
True.
Great point. Great point.
You never know, right? And so the assumption that any one of the they literally have 20,000 people, and I'm not making that 20,000 people at Xbox now, right? To make games, and so they could just put together a team. They built one right now called Elsewhere, right? They could put together a team that says, "Hey, this is our passion. We want to do this." Right? You never know, right? Cyberpunk came from the same people who did Witcher, right? Are those similar storylines? No. They have good capabilities, good systems, right, as far as the development process, but they're very different storylines. You never know, right? People just need to have an opportunity. It could be Infinity Ward does it. It could be Riven. I don't know. Anybody could do it. It's really a question of, do they want to, right? And if they have the passion to do it. Does South of Midnight look like anything that team has ever done? Not really, right?
True. No.
I could keep going. Like there's plenty of examples of people stretching themselves and saying, "I'm going to try something different." Sometimes it fails miserably. That's fine, right? But if you have a passion for it, I think you'll do what's right and do the game you want to do. And hopefully, at this point, if Xbox were to say, "We're going to make something equivalent to GTA, we're going to fund it equivalently," I think they could do something special. All right, it's up to them to say that we want to do that, though. But hey, if somebody wants to make a pitch, right? Maybe that's the next game from one of the big Xbox game studios, because it doesn't have to be from Activision, right? It could
True.
be one of the Xbox game studios says, "Hey, we want to tackle this," right? Maybe Compulsion says, "Hey, we've done this, and now we want to tackle that. Would you give us a budget to do it?" That means we'll get external studios to help us, right?
Can you imagine that, Hargeet? Where in GTA you're playing, you go to the craps tables and this and that. Streets of New York, you're playing dominoes on the corner. Like, damn, that'd be awesome. Oh my goodness.
Right?
I put it to this way: it would look, GTA 6 is going to be amazing. Let's
Of
not
course.
make any mistakes here, but it would be pretty freaking awesome if there is a world where games. Someone had mentioned in the chat, Sleeping Dogs was
another one.
freaking phenomenal game.
Yep.
Yeah.
I play it once a year. I play that game once a year. It's amazing. It really is.
Still an amazing game. Games like Mafia, which the remake of Mafia 1, if you missed out on that, my God, go and play that game. What a phenomenal remake.
If only if I could get you guys to get on it, but Yakuza, they kind of do the same thing.
They do.
That's why they're so popular.
That's why so many people love that game. Yeah, there is limitless talent between what they have with Activision, with Blizzard, with King, with Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda. It's just there are so many different developers now that could, if they decided to put a small team together and a passion project. JT Gamer was asking, and it's a little bit off topic here, but JT Gamer was asking about Lollipop Chainsaw, when you think it's going to go for pre-order. Well, it's releasing on my birthday, September 25th, 2024. So I would imagine that by August you'd be able to pre-order that, maybe even preload it as so that's that. But I want to pick my three because look, you know how I feel about Insomniac Games and Spider-Man. I know that's it's not tip of the spear for a lot of people. A lot of people are like, hey, I don't want to swing through pigeon farts to collect data. I get all of that. I love Insomniac. I love Ted Price and what the team has done with the IP. Right, Spider-Man 2018 is a masterclass release. The emotion and the heartstrings that are pulled for Miles Morales, for a lot of what went on with him personally, didn't mimic me, but gave me a lot of real life feels from how my abuela and how she used to deal with us, right? Spider-Man 2 was good. I didn't finish it. I have to finish it. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I thought it was pretty humorous on how he went from stealth with Mary J to murderer. It was hilarious, but there were some things that I really liked about Spider-Man 2, and there were a lot of things that I didn't. Why am I talking about Spider-Man? Because Beanox is a developer, and they were one of the premier developers for Spider-Man back in the Xbox 360 and PS3 days. This is well before Sony, obviously owned Insomniac Games and came out with the current host of Spider-Man games that are available. And of course, they're moving on to Wolverine. Well, two said games was Spider-Man Edge of Time, and the other one was, well, they did a couple. The two that stand out for me is Edge of Time and Shattered Dimensions. And what's interesting about Shattered Dimensions, it was the Spider-Verse before the Spider-Verse. Yep. And I would love to see not only those games come back, but I would like to say, listen, if they can't make a Spider-Man game because Sony has that lockdown. I totally get that. But I don't know if there's something in the contract that disallows them from remaking these games. I mean, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you Beanox knows their way around Spider-Man. If you were to give them a budget and have them remake, not remaster, like literally remake 2 games that are currently available, it's the blueprints, you make them to what they are. You do a Resident Evil 2 budget where it's a remake that's worthy of the time you're putting in to make the game. That would be pretty awesome. And it would be ultimately a workaround for getting Spider-Man games onto Xbox. Now, I say that with a caveat because I'm telling you this right now. You can boo me, you can send me nasty comments, you can clip this if you want. I am telling you, it's not happening this year, but at some point, and I think it's 2025, you're going to see the announcement that those old Spider-Man games are coming to Xbox. Well, you think I'm a lunatic or not? They are not making any money for Sony right now. They are literally sitting there. You drop those games, you optimize them for the series consoles, you're going to sell 10 million copies. That's a fact. And I think that is happening, but I'd love to see these remade. One other game on the list, and I'm very surprised at you specifically, Kay Asante, that you didn't mention this, is Guitar Hero has to come back. I mean, listen, I know licensed stuff is expensive. I know Phil Spencer talked about licensing, but he specifically said, gentlemen, and I remember this, he mentioned, he name dropped Guitar Hero. And I would imagine that he used to play with his family, and like we all did, our friends and family, and have big old parties with it. I would love to see it come back in a big way. And I don't even want it as an exclusive. Put it everywhere. Put it on PC. Put it on the Switch 2. Put it on PS5 or whatever they're gonna call it in the next Xbox. Put it everywhere. Have cross-play, cross-save, cross-progression. Do all the whole bells and whistles. I would love to see that. And of course, I'm not picking Banjo because that's a typical Boom thing to do. Hey, Banjo, I'm not going to stop asking for it, but there is one on here that I obviously there's a lot of games on here. There's one that's not on here, and that is Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey is a game. It's a JRPG that came out. Blue Dragon here. I would absolutely love just a Final Fantasy VII remake with love for Lost Odyssey. But if they don't want to spend the kind of money, then remaster it at least. Remaster that game. Check the pulse of the people that would buy it, that would play it, and that would obviously ultimately open up the potential for a sequel. I don't know how many people in the chat here actually loved that game. I absolutely adored it. It was, characters were quirky, the supers, the trio of magic that you would do. It was just phenomenal. So I do have another one. I guess you can call it a runner-up. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. Now, obviously, that's a Marvel IP. We know that Marvel does business with Xbox. I'd like to see that come back in a big way. I'd like to see that get all the frames. I'd like to see it get the HDR. I'd like to see it get all the bells and whistles because it's still an incredibly playable game. My question is, and Kay, this is my question to you. Nintendo has locked behind their box Ultimate Alliance 3, which I'm playing through again right now, and it is so freaking good. Is there a world where Marvel Ultimate Alliance releases on with some of the games being added to the Game Pass, and then they work out a deal to get the third one onto Xbox? Could they work with Nintendo?
So, and I know why you're saying that, asking me this question, because you've primed the pump on me on this one, and you know my thoughts on this.
I sure did.
I believe that people are short-sighted when it comes to Nintendo and their relationships. Just because you don't see like contracts on like your favorite gaming outlet saying, hey, they gave us this, we gave them that, does not mean Nintendo and Microsoft aren't moving and shaking in the background, right?
Yep.
You don't see it easy peasy, crystal clear, oh, I hear it many times in the community. Oh, they're just taking all your games. You're getting nothing in return. Please. That is not the case. I believe there are strategic moves afoot. You will never see the ties that bind, but they are there, right? You saw Perfect Dark, the old original Perfect Dark, on a recent Nintendo Direct, right? You saw many games of Xbox go to the Nintendo Switch. Of all the console makers and platform holders, which two platforms have you seen make an ad together? Nintendo and Microsoft, right? There's quid pro quos all over the place. You just don't see them because they are stretched out. They quid here and the pro quo comes like 6 months, a year, 2 years later. There is didn't we just see like Boom, you were even showing that one of the Ultimate Alliances is now showing up searchable within the Xbox ecosystem.
Yep.
Right? And during the days that they were talking about, oh, we're just releasing 4 games and they were going to Switch, people were like, oh yeah, Nintendo's just taking all these games. They're not getting anything. I said it then. Just because you see that happening on that front does not mean that Nintendo is not gonna give something back. And when I say that, I don't mean there's a document somewhere that says you give me this, I give you that. No, it's Microsoft is turning competitors into partners slowly but surely, right?
Yeah.
Slowly but surely. They're showing good faith. Hey man, we'll put games on your platform. Before long, when they ask a question that they've asked multiple times, the short no turns into a maybe, right? And that's what's happening right now, right? 007 was another conversation. Think about it. The old 007 game, right, released with multiplayer on the abacus that requires your social security number, but on the actual console where multiplayer basically thrives and lives, it didn't have it. What do you think that means? They are putting their best foot forward, right? They are sitting there bending low so that they can show their competitor that, hey man, we can be partners. We can make you look good, right? So 100% Boom, I believe that you are right, that there will be a day that you will see titles that you would not think would leave the Nintendo Switch to other places. You'll see them there, right? Just like there will be a day when a new great Call of Duty will be on Switch because they've already televised that, right? The other side will also be true because these are the stepping stones that you do to get to that eventuality.
I mean, Bayonetta 3 is sitting there, right? Bayonetta 2 are sitting there. If they wanted to release the trilogy and make some extra money, and again, let's not make a mistake here. Every company wants to make money. You
know what, Boom?
Yes.
I don't mean to cut you. I just had a quick epiphany. They just like acquired a porting house, right?
They absolutely just announced that. That was Friday that news dropped. Yes.
There you go. So while I don't believe that you'll see all of these things like on Xbox tomorrow, I can see a Game Pass bag, and now it's on Game Pass for PC in the short to medium term, before we get to the eventuality, which is available on the other platforms as well. They are slowly but surely creating partners. I'm sorry, continue, sir.
No, I mean, it's a great point. And I'm glad you brought that up because I actually totally forgot about that. It was a story that did drop, and they did acquire a porting house. Interestingly enough, we start talking about, well, Marvel Ultimate Alliance is kind of just stuck. Bayonetta 2 and 3 kind of just stuck. It would be pretty dope to get those games. And I guess that Nintendo likes money. And look, the playing field, ladies and gentlemen, is changing for gaming. The traditionalists like me, like Hargi, like Kayasante, like a lot of people here, we have to understand that we may not like some of the moves that are being made. We might find them to be heresy at best, right? Like, oh my God, I can't believe you're
Blasphemy,
putting
blasphemy,
if you will. But it's unfortunately we're not the demographic. We are the minority, not the majority, and they're looking to make money. And I think you're gonna start seeing titles from PlayStation on Xbox. You're gonna see titles from Nintendo on Xbox and Xbox on Nintendo, which we've already seen. It's they're gonna be sharing their wares because they want to make money. And unfortunately, like, look, I know that Nintendo, they just every time that they put a first party game out, it sells ridiculous numbers when you look at the attach rate. But that's not the same when it comes to some of their third party exclusives, like an Ultimate Alliance 3, like a Bayonetta 2 and 3. Those did not move the needle. Now, I bought them, Kay bought them, a lot of people in the chat bought them, but they didn't sell the millions that you would get from a Mario Kart or from a Legend of Zelda or or a Metroid. They just don't. But that could change if they put their wares in other places. And the fact that they just signed the porting house, well, I mean I kind of think that is the writing on the wall, so to speak. But look, again, this is one of those shows where normally we go 2 hours, but there's just not a lot of news, and I don't want to hold people up. Obviously the 4th of July is tomorrow. People are going to be leaving to go on their vacations. Hopefully, you're going to have the whole weekend off with your family. I'm going to put on the popo hat here, folks, and I'm going to say, please, for the love of Joe, if you're gonna drink, please, man, drink responsibly. I know it's I don't mind being the nerd in the room. And I don't mind being the nag nudge in the room about that. I've seen way too many tragedies that just ruin people's lives, and it's all you had to do is let someone else drive. Honestly, please, that is my one police message for the day. There is one other fun thing I want to share with the community. I put it out there on the socials. I actually added a message on YouTube. I want to thank we have almost 550 people still here, and I just want to say to the camera and to all you fine folks, thank you for the support that you continue giving Double Barrel Gaming, because whether you know or you don't, maybe you're finding the channel for the first time. Mrs. Boom and I started this channel November 3rd, 2017. And that was our first video, and it was freaking awful. It was so bad that I probably would not have subbed myself, to be honest with you, but I had no idea what the hell I was doing, to be honest. But this past June, okay, we got a notification today from YouTube where we, for the month of June, from June 1st to June 30th, managed to acquire 221,000 views, the most in channel history. At any one month in channel's history, we've never had that many views, and we're still under 15K. We're close. We're like 203 subs away from 15K. So, of course, if you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. But I just wanted to say a big thank you because, again, success on YouTube is not guaranteed. It is a very it's packed with talent, whether that be in the States or outside the States, and it's deep water. And just because you know how to swim doesn't mean you're going to be successful. And somehow or another, we're able to see that kind of viewage. It's awe inspiring, to be honest with you. And again, we would not have that if it wasn't for you. So I just wanted to take the time to say a big thank you. And of course, again, we super appreciate the consistent support through super chats, through channel memberships, and of course, people that share this out on social media. You're hitting the like button. You're subscribing, hopefully. But listen, let's get everyone out of here. We'll end the night a little bit short so you can get on your, start your vacation with your family. Que Asante, there's going to be a show on Saturday from what I understand, because I've already seen the graphic. I like it. Let's talk about the Gaming Circle podcast this Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with you, Everborn Saga, and I'm not actually sure who your guest is going to be, but I'm sure it's going to be someone prolific. Talk about it, man.
Actually, you do know my guest because we met my guest in LA. This week's guest coming on the show on Saturday will be the great Fonzarelli Gaming.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
I love
man.
Fonz. Yeah, we met in real
I
life.
love Fonz
That
too.
guy's
Yeah.
aces.
Absolutely. He always I call him the gaming curmudgeon, and I mean that in the best way, because he has a very critical palate, right? And if you can make him smile, if you get his seal of approval, you know you got something right. You know, he's a great dude. I loved getting to know him a little bit in LA, and I'm happy to have him on the show this week. So yeah, he'll be on our show this week, and basically I know some folks were talking about it in the chat. We're going to be talking a bit more about Xbox and outages and just consoles in general and how they're tied to those authentication systems and things like that. You know, it's been my little pet project for some years now, right? I've always said that us as gamers, we need to focus our energy someplace. And I really think this is a place we need to focus our energy as a gaming community as whole. So this Saturday, you'll catch me on the Gaming Circle podcast. I will expound on that a bit. As you said, I also host a show that's more PC gaming focused with my man, Mr. John Wolf, and we do that on the Gamers Playground on Monday nights. But I will actually point you also to the gamingcircle.com, which is our small little new project we're doing.
Yes.
You know, we're having interesting conversations. We're having folks put out some articles. We're doing our own thing, man. We're tired of all the clickbaity stuff that we see sometimes. So many people have accused me of I love loving things. Come to the site and come check me loving things. You know what I mean? I'll tell you about great indie gems that maybe is not on your radar. Myself and many other great contributors, Mr. BoomStick included, who did an amazing review of Still Wakes the Deep, that is on there as well. So please come check us out. It's on your browser of choice, and just go check out thegamingcircle.com. But as usual, I'm always happy to be here. Thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you. And Harky Chani, you had a video on your actual YouTube channel that exploded 50,000 plus views for the Gears of War reveal. Please, by all means, tell everyone where they can not only buy your book, which of course is called Emergence, and well, I own a copy, as so should you, where they can buy your book, and more importantly, subscribe to your YouTube channel, where you're consistently putting up content, opinion pieces, videos. Love the work that you're doing. Talk about it, man. Sell the brand.
Yeah. So first, happy 4th of July to all those. Tomorrow is our Independence Day here in the U.S. To all those in the U.S., happy 4th of July. And then happy birthday to King. His birthday was yesterday. Yep. So shout out to him. And then, yeah, as far as my book, it's called Emergence. It's a sci-fi novel. If you haven't already heard me make the spiel, you can go to this link right here, shop.johnny.us, and it'll link you over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, wherever you want to pick it up. And if you also want to get a signed copy, it's there. And there's merch if you want to pick up the merch. And then my channel is HargeetChani1 on YouTube. So youtube.com/HargeetChani1. Subscribe away. And that video is up to 64,000 views. I don't know what the heck's going on, but it keeps getting watched.
64. Good for you, dude. That is astonishing.
It's crazy. But that just tells you the power of Gears. People are loving that E-Day reveal, and they just want to see the reactions. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, check that out. I have reactions for all the other ones as well, or almost all the other announcements that Xbox had. Next time I'll try to get the Summer Games Fest as well. I totally forgot to do it then. I should have, but that one actually had a lot of reactions as well. So I'll try to get those next summer. But either way, yeah, check that out on my channel. I also have just videos on things that are going on. One of the ones that came to me is we all talked about the Sony shutting down the physical media part in Japan,
250
which
people,
apparently people got wrong. They assumed that was for pressed discs. It's not. It was for recordable media. So I went over that in the video. It's not physical disc. It's not so they're not getting rid of your movies or your games. This was intended for specifically if you bought CDR, BDR, right, or DVD-R discs that you can record at home. they are stopping that. So we kind of jumped the gun, and I think the media also jumped the gun on assuming that it was all of it. It was just that they didn't see any demand for it anymore. So Sony is shutting that down. But anyway, so things like that are up on my site, so you can check that out on my YouTube channel. We are still going to do the Friday show for On Point for Gamers night shift.
Nice.
So check that out. With C Money and Doodle on 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time Friday. But happy 4th, everyone.
Thank you so much, brother. Super appreciate that. And again, just a quick reminder. There will be a new episode of Breakfast with Boom on Friday. There will not be an episode of X Vlog Live tomorrow. Mrs. Boom and I are just gonna, let our soak our heels, if you will. We're gonna just take it easy, recharge the batteries, just spend some quality time with each other. Probably not gonna do much of nothing except maybe sell some turnips in Animal Crossing, but that's what I do in my spare time. I sell turnips. It's great. But listen, thank you so much, everyone, for checking out today's show. Again, for the ridiculous amount of support, and of course, that support doesn't just come from super chats and channel memberships. That also comes with sharing and liking and subbing, and we definitely super appreciate all of that. Of course, Mrs. Boom and I, along with Kay Asante and Hargi Chani, want to wish all of you and your families a great 4th of July if you celebrate it. Of course, we have a lot of people outside of the United States that don't celebrate it, but if you're going to have fun with your friends and your family, please, again, drink responsibly and don't drink and drive. And I just got to keep driving that point home. But of course, I want to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day, folks, will be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids and would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. Okay, I